on the approach up towards turn one. They're looking like some dark grey clouds forming as we get ready for Moto GP.
Don't say that, mate. We're hoping for a dry 27-lap Moto GP battle coming your way very soon, with Fabio Quartararo, the home hero, starting from pole position for the 9th time. Yeah, there's a few menacing-looking clouds gathering overhead. A few riders did do, as is customary in the warm session this morning, some flag-to-flag practice starts. Not a lot of blue sky around in the distance, is there? A bit more there. Let's be optimistic, shall we, and see the glass half full and hope that we do get a full dry 27-lap Moto GP Grand Prix coming up very, very shortly.
Yeah, the various views of the paddock here. The one with the clouds we're talking about are on the top left corner where it says Le Mans at the moment. Yeah, fingers crossed it is dry, because we're in for a spectacle here in Moto GP. That will be coming up next. The race will kick off at 1 o'clock, but we've got the build-up for that to come. And then, of course, we'll conclude things here in the commentary box, myself, Matt Burt and Simon Crafar with Moto 2. Matt Dunn, Neil Morrison and Fran Wild will be then in the box to bring you the conclusion to the Moto E World Cup, the final round of their 2020 championship coming up, where Jordi Torres looks like he's in prime position to pick up the spoils there. And we'll be off to do an old version of After the Flag after that. Myself, Matt Burt and Simon Crafar will be analysing all the drama from MotoGP.
Yeah, a bit of retro ATF coming up later on. Looking forward to being reunited with the boys again this afternoon. Who will we be talking about as the French Grand Prix winner in MotoGP? Will it be Fabio Quartararo, who's trying to be, believe it or not, the first French rider to win a Premier Class race on home soil since 1954, 66 very long years ago.
Good to have fans back here in France, albeit just 5,000 of them scattered around the grandstands. Hopefully a sign of things to come in 2021. I noticed in the media some talk about calendars for next year. Nothing out yet, no provisional calendar, but Dorna CEO Carmelo Espeleta mentioning that they will try as hard as possible to get a calendar looking like a normal MotoGP calendar, and there'll be lots of plan Bs and Cs ahead to try and cope with the virus, because we've still not got a grasp on it around the world just yet. But fingers crossed, Matt, that we can as normal 2021 as is possible.
Yeah, here, could not agree more. We're all desperate for some normality back in our lives, aren't we, both socially and professionally? It's this time of year normally where we're all planning to get ready for the flyaway triple header. I had a reminder come up on my phone a couple of days ago that I'm supposed to be flying to Tokyo on Tuesday. I don't think that's happening, unfortunately.
Well, please don't. Leave me a bit alone in the commentary box for Aragon coming up. So we'll leave you for now. We'll be back in about a minute's time to bring you coverage of Moto GP. The race will kick off at 1. We've got a good 35-minute build-up to come, though, as we try and pick the bones out of who is favourite to win Grand Prix here in Le Mans. Races down and 6 to go in the next 7 weeks. We arrive in France for our latest triple header, with 5,000 fans hoping for home glory in Le Mans. Their new hero, Fabio Quartararo, is on pole today, looking to extend his championship lead. It's time to go racing in Moto GP. A 4.1-kilometre circuit here, the Bugatti circuit in Le Mans. 14 corners, 9 of them right, 5 of them left. Last resurfaced 4 years ago, 2016. Will there be lap records going here today? The race lap records belonging to Maverick Vinales when he won on the Yamaha here 3 years ago. Plenty of overtaking hotspots here in Le Mans. This is way back 3 years ago in that dramatic race where Rossi crashed out. Maverick Vinales went on to win. What will we see today? Coming up though in the next 20 or so minutes in MotoGP, Fabio Quartararo, can he deliver French fans glory from pole? Miller poses a huge threat today. The Aussie will start from second place. Petrucci and Crutchlow are well placed to fight for podiums from third and fourth on the grid. And the informed Joan Mir faces his toughest test yet from 14th on the grid. Welcome to the Shark Helmets Grand Prix of France, and those live pictures do not tell lies. It has got quite dark overhead here in the commentary box. What a turn and tail this would be. No rain forecast at all for this Grand Prix here today, and yet those images perhaps tell you different. Are we going to see some rainfall here before MotoGP go racing in just over half an hour? Steve Day, Matt Burt, Simon Crafar here then to bring you this Premier Class action. 8 races gone, 6 to go in a dramatic schedule. Matt, this would be a bit of a turn up.
It really would, yeah. We were not expecting any kind of rain to disrupt today's proceedings here in Le Mans, but there are some pretty threatening looking grey clouds starting to loom large. And more importantly, right overhead, this famous Bugatti circuit. There's not been a full wet MotoGP race since Valencia 2018. We've not had a flag-to-flag race since Brno 2017. Are we going to see one or the other? Let's hope we get a full dry 27-lap battle here, because it's all set up to be an absolute corker with Fabio Quartararo starting from pole position in his home Grand Prix, his 9th pole position of his MotoGP career. And look at those skies off in the distance beyond turns 1, 2 and 3 here in Le Mans. They look rather ominous, don't they?
Well, it was stormy here when we arrived just last week. These images looking over at the back end of the circuit from turn 7 and 8 onwards look okay, but well, this would be something, wouldn't it, if we were to see some rainfall. At the moment though, Fabio Quartararo, as is with the current times, just getting some hand sanitizer there, getting ready to start from pole position for his home Grand Prix. Not the first time he started from pole here in Le Mans either. 2015 he was on pole position in Moto 3. He's not got a great record here though at Le Mans, so he probably won't thank us for reminding him of that, but he leads the World Championship by 8 points. A great chance with great rhythm, Matt, to extend that here today.
Yeah, and the omens are good for Fabio Quartararo. His previous 2 starts from pole position in 2020, well, he went on to take victories. First in Jerez, which seems a long time ago now, to kick off that delayed MotoGP World Championship back in late July. And then, of course, he followed that up with another win from pole in Andalusia 1 week later. You need to be wrapped up from the elements if you're one of the 5,000 lucky fans to have grabbed a ticket for this Le Mans MotoGP this weekend. Face masks, woolly hats and thick coats are the order of the day, as Fabio Quartararo then, headphones in, getting himself ready and psyched up. Well, he's looking at us and we're looking at you. He's a brave man. Short sleeve shirt in this weather. Is he British?
Here is Joan Mir. He's been in stunning form of late. The man in form in the World Championship. He's outscored Fabio Quartararo by 40 points in the last 5 races. 4 podiums in those 5 as well. But if he's to do the same again today, it would be some task, Matt, because he's starting from a season worst 14th place on the grid.
Yeah, and with this heavy cloud cover, well, that's going to keep it very, very cold, bitterly cold here in Le Mans in actual fact, and that's a problem for the Suzukis. Joan Mir, his main issue all weekend has been getting temperature into that Michelin soft front tyre. We expect everybody is going to start this race, if it's dry, on the soft front, soft rear tyre from Michelin. Isn't it great just to see fans coming back through the turnstiles? We saw them back in Misano, the double header there. Jack Miller then, the Australian, in what are pretty typical Phillip Island conditions here, so Jack Miller won't mind this too much. And what about Cal Crutchlow? Miller's great mate. Awesome to see Cal. Best qualifying in 24 since he was on the front row in Austin last year. Great warm-up session as well, inside the top 3. He's going to start 4th on the LCR Honda.
Yeah, and if it's Phillip Island conditions, then that's good news for Cal Crutchlow fans, of course. His last podium coming in Australia at the end of last year. Good to see him somewhere near his best again. Definitely got a podium chance here this afternoon. I'm really interested to know also, Matt, what happens in regards to the starting devices for a number of riders on the grid here. Of course, we've seen them being used to good effect throughout 2020 so far, but the track layout here, uphill into turns 1 and 2, there's a few suggestions that some riders are not keen to use it because they're not going to have enough brake to deactivate it up the hill, and 1 or 2 others may well gamble.
Yeah, I wonder whether somebody like Petrucci on the front row might gamble. He's not fighting for the World Championship. He hasn't really got a lot to lose other than potentially being in the podium fight early on here. It's a different story for the likes of Fabio Quartararo and Jack Miller. The start will be critical as well for this man, Andrea Dovizioso. Only the 2nd time this year he finds himself qualifying inside the top 6. Looking to bounce back, of course, from the bitter disappointment of Barcelona when he was taken out at just the 2nd corner. So Dovizioso, he said yesterday, it's absolutely imperative, essential, that he's on the podium or certainly fighting for the podium in terms of the World Championship, because he's worried that if Quartararo makes the start and gets the whole shot, he's got the pace and the consistency to make a break. So he's going to be relying on Miller and Petrucci ahead of him to try and grab the lead from Fabio Quartararo and disrupt the Yamaha man's rhythm early on.
As we've said, Suzuki's not looked as sharp as usual in 2020. Alex Rins also struggling yesterday, 16th on the grid, though he was on the podium from 13th on the grid, of course, in Catalonia a couple of weekends ago, his first silverware of the 2020 season. It just seems at the moment like they are missing crucial speed in Sector 1.
Taka Nakagami, well, still a championship contender, isn't he? Down in 7th place in the World Championship. Great record this year, the only man to score points in every race. They've all been top 10s as well. Not been an easy weekend so far for the Japanese man. He hasn't qualified, actually. That's been his weak point of late. 13th on the grid, Nakagami. No top 10 in qualifying now in the last 4 races.
Johann Zarco confirmed he will be a Pramac Ducati rider for next year. Gone under the radar a bit so far this weekend at his home Grand Prix. He'll start from as usual in a position that Zarco's in the World Championship, 15th with 36 points. Nothing to lose for him here.
Absolutely not. He said yesterday, confident he can fight for the top 5, but also thinks he can make a big play for the podium as well. So keep a close eye on Johann Zarco. Pecco Bagnaia, he will not be relishing these conditions too much. He's found it difficult himself to get heat in those front and rear tyres. That's been a concern. It takes him a little bit longer to find his groove compared to some of the other riders around him. We will see Pecco Bagnaia starting from the head of row 3 and 7th.
Alex Marquez has got a good record here in Le Mans. A slight jolt to his confidence this morning with a crash in warm-up. Starting from 18th, Alex Marquez just looking to try and build on that experience and get himself some points here today. And one of the chances of Pol Espargaro at times this weekend, come rain or shine, has shown that they've got the potential, but doesn't look like they've quite got the speed to be able to fight for a podium here today.
Which he did last year, of course. It was KTM's first dry race, top 6 here 1 year ago. Valentino Rossi, confident in his race pace, frustrated to find himself down in 10th place on the grid. Does not accurately show or reflect his true potential. The start of the first few laps of the keeper Rossi as he tries to finally make it 200 Premier Class podiums. In what is now his 351st Premier Class start.
Hard to know what to expect from that guy as well, Pecco Bagnaia, who's been getting quicker and quicker as the weekend goes on. Maverick Vinales here, just going out on a wet tyre. Now, you would not be surprised to see a number of riders scrubbing in a wet here, in case we do have a flag-to-flag race, which Matt just mentioned. I can barely believe that we've not had one since Brno 2017. Maverick himself had a big crash this morning in warm-up, but soon put that right, went back out on circuit, was in the top 3 by the end of warm-up.
If that man Franco Morbidelli had qualified slightly higher than 11th, there'd have been a lot of money going on him to fight for the victory today. Looked really good on the first tyre, the first soft tyre in Q2 yesterday afternoon, got himself inside the top 3, couldn't get anything going at all, not the same level of grip, he said, with his second soft rear tyre. That's why he plummeted down the order to 11th. A lot of work to do for Morbidelli from the middle of that 4th row. That's his equal worst starting position of the season so far, but he's got very, very good race pace, so if he can charge through, well, he'll be a contender for that top 5 minimum.
Cal Crutchlow then getting himself ready. They couldn't get that bike started in morning warm-up, but he was still there or thereabouts. Of course, a big result here today throws him right in the shop window in front of Aprilia, the ride that he is looking for 2021, that vacant seat that at the moment we're still unsure of. The hearing of Andrea Iannone to take place soon.
Yeah, and everybody at the moment will be looking skywards to check on that heavy cloud cover.
Shall we check with Simon down in pit lane? I mean, sometimes you get a feeling, don't you, whether or not it's going to rain. Simon, what are the conditions like at the moment where you are?
Guys, it's like the camera showed. You know, every couple of minutes those dark clouds get more over the circuit, and you know, it genuinely could go either way. It's really hard to pick. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few spits and we get away with it.
There are.
That's what I'd guess.
We can see them. We can see them on the exit of pit lane. There's a couple. I mean, it's not heavy rain by any stretch. So at the moment, it would not affect track conditions. Track temperature's not exactly tropical, is it? 17 degrees, 16 in some places, but we just saw a couple of tiny spits there on the camera lens as they exited pit lane. You could see Cal's arm going up, Valentino Rossi's arm also going up.
We had a full wet FP1, didn't we, on Friday morning, and then mixed conditions, the circuit scattered with damp patches in FP2, and who really came to the fore? Well, it was Jack Miller. He won't be frightened to push hard in those mixed conditions. So Maverick Vinales did go out and scrub in rain tyres on that factory Yamaha. His mechanics have done a great job, because one of those M1s was quite badly damaged this morning with that crash at turn 10 on an outlap in warm-up. Now he's got the slick tyres fitted. You can just see there pumping the brakes, trying to get some crucial temperature into those carbon discs.
So then you could pretty much erase the yellow banded hard tyres from the equation here today, and probably the mediums also. Everything pointing towards riders going for a soft front, soft rear tyre. And will we be thrown a curveball here? Will anyone need to use soft or medium tyres in this race? Will it rain before we start? Will we have our first flag to flag in 3 years? There'll be a few riders down on the grid that will be absolutely praying that it does not rain, and there'll be one or two others who will be saying, now that sounds like a bit of me.
Yes.
The underdog's a bit further back on the grid. Maverick Vinales, what to expect from him? Great pace.
Bradley Smith right now, they're doing a rain dance. Of course, he topped that wet FP1 session on Friday.
Good point.
On the factory Aprilia, and he was running strong in the mixed conditions in the afternoon session before a vicious ejector seat high side at turn 11.
Yeah, and you get some long odds on Bradley Smith as well, but anything could happen. The riders make their way on the grid then ahead of the French Grand Prix. Fabio waving to the fans. Pole position for him.
He said yesterday he's not thinking about Joan Mir, he's just concentrating on his own game, his own plans. He said easily to think about Mir having qualified down in 14th place, his closest championship rival.
So Maverick went out scrubbing a set of wets in, came back into pit lane whilst pit lane was still open for another minute in fact, if he wanted to go in and do it again, but he's not going to. Around to the grid he comes then, and he will line up in 5th place. The virtual fan wall, well, it's nice to have fans here, but to all of you waving from around the world, we send our greetings, whether it's good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day. Thank you once again for joining us. And we hope that your rider has a good day, whoever it is that you're cheering on, coming up here for this race that will start in just under 20 minutes.
Will it be dry? Will it be wet? Will it be mixed? Who knows? What have the elements got in store for us ahead of this 27-lap French Grand Prix?
This is a big race for Jack Miller, second on the grid. He's looked good all weekend, come rain or shine.
Yeah.
He's not out of the championship either.
And the start will be crucial. Can the Ducati launch off the line and get ahead of Fabio Quartararo? There is your first two rows then. Fabio Quartararo on pole position for the 9th time. The two Ducati GP20s alongside him in the hands of Jack Miller and Danilo Petrucci. Crutchlow, Vinales and Dovizioso are on that second row. And speaking of the man on the front row for the 3rd year in a row here in Le Mans and going for his 3rd successive podium in France as well, I'm delighted to say Simon Crafar is joined by Danilo Petrucci on the grid.
I am. Danilo, like I said yesterday, great to see you smiling again and looking really confident. What do you think is possible to achieve today?
It's always nice to be here in front row. We are very close to each other, but we are ready for the battle. I have a good pace and I feel good with the bike, so I think we can fight for the podium.
Danilo, just before I let you go, can you use the start device here with that fast first turn or not?
It's quite difficult to use it because there is a first corner that is quite wide, but I think it's an opportunity to go ahead and stay away from the problem.
Best of luck.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said, Matt. Thanks very much. It's great to hear from Danilo Petrucci. In a world where we can't often hear from riders on the grid who don't want to talk on the front row, good to have the confidence back. Here's a legend for you, Mick Doohan, the 5-timer as he's often known in the paddock, looking like he's cheering on Jack Miller from second on the grid. Danilo Petrucci has more than a good chance. There's no reason at all why anyone should rule him out of a podium opportunity today.
Not at all. His first front row start in 22 since Mugello last year. That turned out to be a pretty good day for the Italian, didn't it? Although his form evaporated pretty quickly after that one. He hasn't had a top 6, believe it or not, Danilo Petrucci, since the Saxon Ring last July. I think it's fair to say long overdue. I don't think you need tyre warmers, you need flamethrowers to keep heating the tyres down here today in Le Mans. It's so bitterly cold.
Some of the dark clouds have moved on by from our commentary box. We might just escape the rain. Who knows? Here's Jack Miller then. He's got his gloves on, keeping himself warm. Second on the grid. 6th in the World Championship, but just 33 points down.
Yeah, gloves on now for Miller. He'll be trying to get his gloves off a little bit later on. In about, what, 17 minutes time when this 27-lap French Grand Prix gets underway. Great record here in Le Mans for Miller, a former Moto 3 race winner here. He's been 4th, knocking on the door of the podium here for the last 2 years as well.
Miller will be disappointed if he's not on the podium here today in France, Matt.
He will.
If he's able to win, though, his first for Ducati in Pramac colours, that really puts him in a box seat for the World Championship.
It just gives you a massive fillip for the remainder of the season. We know that the Ducati works very well in Aragon, of course, using its power down that long back straight. So, yeah, Miller will be looking for a big pre-race boost. Bradley Smith had a brilliant FP1 on Friday morning in the wet conditions. An unfortunate big high side at turn number 11, but he's looked good all weekend on that factory. I'm delighted to say he's on the grid with Simon now.
He is. He's just chatting to his mechanics. Actually, guys, there's a lot of stress down here. You know, you can imagine with choices, getting other bikes set up. Bradley, you were super fast in wet conditions. Anything could happen right now. What are you hoping for?
For it to decide one or the other. You know, this up in the air stuff is always miserable for the rider, and especially the old spit spotting with this type of conditions as well. It's never any fun. You know, you just don't know what you're going to get. It's hard enough, as you see all weekend, these morning sessions and with these cold things, you know, without throwing rain into the mix, but it's what makes it exciting for the fans at home. So, I mean, yeah, if it's going to rain, and if it's going to be dry, but this in between and not knowing is kind of miserable. But I've had a good weekend. I've enjoyed it so far, so I need to finish it off as well.
Just hope you don't mind, got one other thing to ask. End of warm-up in those cold conditions, I saw some of the riders' rear tyre, soft rear tyre tearing up, like cold tearing. Is it a worry at this temperature, or is it okay?
To be honest, the rear's not too bad for me. It's the front that I have the main issues. Aprilia, for some reason, it always has a hard time warming up the front tyre a little bit, keeping that temperature there. And as you saw this morning, I just couldn't get any temperature into it, and it locked straight. So, yeah, hopefully I can generate a little bit more, and let's see for the race.
Thanks, Brad. Best of luck.
Yeah, thanks very much to Bradley Smith. You can understand why he wants one or the other. Most riders would. The in-between is hard. And when you're out there on a dry circuit in cool conditions and there are spots of rain coming onto your visor, it's very difficult to know exactly what's to come. But Simon's right. Notice that in morning warm-up. There's sort of dark bands around the right-hand side of the tyre where cold air was affecting a couple of people.
Yeah, it's going to be a nightmare at the start, isn't it? How much risk do you take on a full fuel tank trying to get the heat in those front tyres when it is so cold here? Franco Morbidelli back on the fourth row of the grid, certainly not reflecting his potential at all. He's had top 3 pace in race trim and on soft tyres all weekend, but could not get that second soft rear tyre working in the crucial final moments of Q2 yesterday.
I think it's quite simple, isn't it, for Morbidelli and for Rossi, Matt? They're going to need a blistering opening 2 or 3 laps, and if they can be somewhere near the top 5, there's definitely a chance for a podium.
Well, there's a bit of blue sky trying to peep through the clouds, which is a welcome sight. We look at the overhead helicopter. Will it be a flying Frenchman, Fabio Quartararo, that can take the spoils here today? Alex Rins, you've got to go a long, long way back to find Alex Rins, head of the 6th row in 16th place. 5th time this year in qualifying, Alex Rins has found himself outside the top 10. That's qualifying form that's going to make it so, so hard to get podiums, although he did, to his credit, come from 13th to 3rd last time out in Barcelona.
All 4 of Joan Mir's podiums have come in the last 5 races.
We can pop back down onto the grid. Simon Crayfar's got the pole man's team boss, Wilco Zeelenberg, to talk to ahead of this 27-lap race. Over to you guys.
Yes, Wilco, you know, Fabio has looked the strongest. I'd say he's favourite today. Franco, really strong, just didn't work out in qualifying. What do you feel they can do today?
Yeah, I think you're right. Fabio looked all weekend good. He has struggled a little bit in the warm-up. For Frankie, it was he had only 4 weak laps, and actually those weak laps were the 4 qualifying laps at the end. And actually the whole weekend it was very good for him. So it was a pity that he's on the 11th spot. So because his pace is much better than that.
Just 2 things to ask you. Can the Yamaha start device be used with this really sweeping first turn?
Yeah, we will. So it will be tricky because first corner, of course, is without brakes. The boys have been testing it, and so let's see if they can take some benefit out of it.
The other thing I wanted to know is I saw some rear tyres, some rear softs, Valentino's, one of Fabio's tearing in the morning, you know, in that cold temperature. Is it a worry at this temperature or not?
Well, it's always worrying, of course, but we also know when you use tires for warm-up, when they have been used for qualifying, so the pressure and the heat maximum temperature has been much higher than in normal situation, so that damaged the tire quite a bit. And there is only one choice at the moment, which is a soft tire, and that's it. We don't have to doubt about which one, but we doubt on which one we have, basically, you know.
Thank you, Wilco. Best of luck.
Yeah, thanks very much. Here is Fabio Quartararo. So they're going to be using their start device. It looks like Petrucci will as well. Jack Miller saying last night perhaps he won't risk it, but he may well change his mind down on the grid. We just saw Miguel Oliveira there. Of course, now we've got fans back. His trusty Miguel Oliveira fan club back as well. Miguel Oliveira scathing in his words about Pecco Bagnaia yesterday. He's not making many friends around the Moto GP paddock at the moment. Here are the French fans then, Zarco fans, Fabio Quartararo fans, hoping for a big result for their men here today. Let's find out then what the chances are for Suzuki realistically. Davide Brivio's down on the grid with Simon Crayfar.
He is. Davide, you said in warm-up that you were trying to find something set-up-wise for Joan Mir, particularly, you know, first sector. Did you find it, and what are you hoping for?
Yeah, he found a little bit improvement, better feeling on the first sector, especially turn 1, and he couldn't really make up a good lap time because there was a lot of traffic and people slowing down or pushing. So maybe you don't see on a lap time, but I mean his feeling came better. His comment was quite positive, and so let's see. Of course, starting 13 is not that easy, but let's see. As I say, this is a different scenario compared to Barcelona. Probably are many riders fast or with very similar pace, and the tire wear will be less, or maybe no tire wear, and so we see.
Thank you, Davide. Best of luck.
Thank you very much to Davide Brivio. A bemused face there from Danilo Petrucci, but he looks pretty cool and calm, doesn't he?
Yeah, I was just thinking he looks as relaxed as I've seen him for, well, the entirety of 2020. It's been difficult for him. Aleix Espargaro wrapped up from the element as well on the factory Aprilia. 15th on the grid for Aleix yesterday. Again, another rider that's been struggling to get temperature into that front tyre. Risk over reward ratio here today.
Three times already this year, courtesy of Fabio Quartararo. Here are the helicopter pictures. There's rain here, isn't there? There's a couple of spots of rain overhead. Drama. What are we, 7-8 minutes away from the race action starting here in Le Mans? There's the full circuit you can see for the used for the 24 hours, the Le Mans football stadium as well, just to the bottom left. But the big news here is what's going to happen overhead.
Famous Mulsanne Straight for the Le Mans 24-hour, one of the most famous and historic motorsport events in the world. As always here in Le Mans, the local circuit announcer getting the 5,000 fans whipped up ahead of this French Grand Prix battle. Back to Simon Crowther on the grid with some thoughts on the start device scenario. Simon.
I didn't get to ask Davide Brivio online about their start device because I don't think they have the same concerns, because like Aprilia, it's in the front, you know, like a motocross one, which will be no problem at all. And he confirmed that, no hassle at all for the Suzuki start device.
Thank you very much, Simon. You just wonder now, don't you, whether or not Jack will gamble on that on the front row if Danilo and Fabio are...
Yeah, well, if he knows Petrucci's going to do it, then surely he has to do it. Why would you give anybody any kind of advantage coming off the line?
Does he know that Petrucci's going to use it, though? You'd think that they'd have some knowledge in-house, wouldn't you? Alex Marquez then is going to be getting ready to go. His brother Mark watching on. Will he be back in a few days' time in Aragon? Simon.
Guys, I would be concerned to use the rear ones here because looking at the first turn from the front row where I am now, that you don't have to brake for it, you know, and that's the only way those start devices come back up and you get your ride height back. Turning into a really fast corner with like must be 50, 60 mil lower at the back, the bike is not going to handle the same, you know. I would expect some weird looking bikes going through that first turn, maybe even not so safe, you know.
Okay, thank you very much for your thoughts there. The wind's picking up a bit over here outside our commentary box.
Yeah, which potentially might bring with it, unfortunately, some rain as well. Where are we at? 5.5 minutes until it's lights out here in Le Mans. It's been a tough weekend so far for Brad Binder. A couple of spills for him at turn 7. Finds himself down in 17th place, although you know he's going to be a hard charger when the lights do go out. He's very much a Sunday afternoon man traditionally, isn't he, Brad Binder?
Oh, it's raining.
It is absolutely
it's
teeming
raining.
down. That's Julian Simon.
Can you believe it?
Maverick Vinales' rider coach, and I'm sure he's not messaging home. He's getting back to pit lane and saying it's raining.
We might have a delayed start here. The reason I say that is, yes, MotoGP is flag to flag, but if it was to absolutely tip down, they wouldn't see it as being safe to start everyone off on slicks. That's if it absolutely tips down.
Just wonder where Julian Simon is actually parked on that scooter to find out precisely where that rain is falling, because you could clearly see there it looked like some pretty heavy rain shower that was falling on the former 125cc world champion, now employed, of course, of Maverick Vinales' rider coach and analyst. Wow. Well, it looks like it's raining around the football stadium, doesn't it? That area towards the middle right of your picture.
So that would affect Garage Vert, turn 8, the double right-handers, potentially La Chapelle as well. 3 minutes to the warm-up lap. I mean, tensions have been up there already throughout this weekend, but they'll be rising even more for those on the front row right now. Right, as it stands, you can see there's no rain on the start line, but there seems to be rain coming through, and it's just started raining on the commentary box window.
You can see Esteban Garcia on the headset there. He's getting information all the time, and now he's relaying it back to Maverick Vinales. Vinales has spotted the rain.
Start has been delayed.
Yeah, Jack Miller, he spotted it as well, and now they'll know that the rain's getting heavy. You can see the red flag there in the start tower on the right-hand side of your picture.
It's completely the right thing to do. Completely the right thing to do. You cannot start a race with everybody on slicks if it's about to team down with rain. So we do have a delayed start here, and they'll just be keeping an eye on things to see whether or not this is just a quick downpour. So no rain forecast, but this is Le Mans, isn't it? Pecco Bagnaia upset, Fabio Quartararo off the grid. There'll be a couple of riders relieved that they've not had to start in these conditions. Amazing, isn't it? 2020. I mean, who writes the script? We've been saying that every single round since Jerez won.
Well, it started to bucket down now on the start-finish straight.
Wow.
Big raindrops falling in our commentary box window. We're kind of just before the braking zone for turn 1 here.
I feel really sorry, Matt, for all of the riders here. There might be some at home excited potentially about this. And, you know, there will be excitement to the race. It adds an added edge if the circuit now is wet. But this is just exactly like Bradley Smith said. If it rains and it's going to be full wet, then fine. But if this is a short shower and then the circuit gets a good coating, I mean, this is the first time we've seen rain since Friday morning in FP1.
See Bradley Smith there, even carrying his own starter motor off the grid. So Fabio Quartararo's pole position Petronas Yamaha SRT then being wheeled back into the pits. See all over the screen of that Yamaha just how significantly the rain has started to fall in the last couple of minutes or so. We could see it in the distance. It was clearly pouring down over the Le Mans football stadium, which is just a couple of kilometres away from this Bugatti circuit.
Well, if we've got a wet race ahead, then this could change things rather dramatically. It really could change things. Now, the reason I say that is because on Friday morning, Fabio Quartararo decided he'd go for a risk-free approach. He didn't put in any fast laps.
Look at Joan Mir biting his nails, biting the skin on his thumb as well. He knows. You've got to remember, Steve, if this gets full wet, Fabio Quartararo, Joan Mir, they've never actually raced a MotoGP bike in wet conditions.
Bagnaia the same, and of course this year's
Miguel Oliveira,
rookie. Yep.
Brad Binder. There's a whole bunch of riders, including the top 2 men in the World Championship, that are going into uncharted territory here.
Who was mustered on Friday morning here? Bradley Smith, obviously. Jack Miller looked solid in wet. Petrucci, this guy here, you always know when the going gets rough. Valentino Rossi has got the speed. Cal Crutchlow in the past has shown in mixed conditions that he's got the edge as well. It just depends really on how much rain falls as to whether or not we're going to have a fully wet race or not. There'd need to be an awful lot more rain right now for it to be fully wet. This is going the way of flag to flag as it stands.
And the wind picked up and brought the rain in, and it's still pretty gusty out there, so how quickly will it blow the rain clouds away from this Bugatti circuit? Rain covers on Pol Espargaro's factory KTM. Can you believe it? 3 minutes away from the get-go here in France. and the heavens opened. Already you can see off in the distance, there is that Le Mans football stadium. It started to clear up over that part of Le Mans.
So, if you're just tuning in, rain on grid procedure is coming up and a quick start procedure. They are going for this. This race is going to start. There's a quick start procedure to follow at 4 minutes past 1 local time. That's 4 minutes away. Pit lane will only be open for 60 seconds. Davide Tardozzi there just talking to Jack Miller. Changes and suspension and front forks being softened on Johan Zarco's bike. Simon, this is an absolute nightmare, isn't it, for all of these teams and the riders? What are your thoughts going into this one?
You did right, guys. I was listening to you. The thing is, you just want to get on with it. You know, all the tension building on the grids. It's not the nicest feeling, you know, going in there. You want to get on with it. It's like just prolonging it, and is a proper drag. But I've got a guy that's even more experienced than me by a long way with me, Mick Doohan. Mick, what do you reckon of the situation now? What's going through these guys' heads? You've done it plenty of times.
No, as you have, it's not a good position to be in. One, you know, it doesn't look like it's going to rain for too long, so it's going to be a two-part race by the looks of it. I think Jack Miller is liking it, but I think as a rider, the track is so cold at the moment, probably the coldest it's been at the moment, so they're probably going to enjoy it being wet at least, and they might have more feel.
Yeah, you did right in that super cold, and they'd be scared to go with the soft wets, I imagine, because that's, you know, it looks like it's going to dry out. So yeah, that's the gamble, isn't it? The choice of wets as well.
Well, that's, as you say, it's going to be a gamble. Who comes in first if it is starting to dry and if there's another shower coming? So it's going to be an interesting race for sure, and you know, looking forward to seeing how it unfolds.
Thanks for your time, Mick. Hey guys, the other thing is these sort of conditions are so what's the word? So easy to crash in, you know. So fingers crossed that sort of thing doesn't happen.
Yeah, thanks for that, Simon. Absolutely great to hear from the 5-time world champion Mick Doohan. We have a wet race starting, but it's going to be flag to flag, folks. If this dries up, everyone will be starting on wets. No one will get right now. It's bucketing down outside our commentary box. Looks like for the first time in 3 years we may have a flag to flag. This changes everything, Matt. Absolutely everything.
And the king of flag to flags is sat at home on his sofa in Cervera right now. And of course, these mixed conditions, Jack Miller, he excels. If it does go full wet and stays full wet, Danilo Petrucci and Andrea Dovizioso have proven in recent history how strong they are in rain conditions. Alex Rins and Pol Espargaro in that last full wet MotoGP race in Valencia 2018 was so strong as well. But what is going through the minds of the two top men in the World Championship, Fabio Quartararo and Joan Mir, this is completely new territory for them and a bunch of other riders who've never actually raced on Michelin rain tyres in MotoGP. They've got no experience of the flag-to-flag race scenario as well. So which of those will handle it the best? This is a high-pressure environment as it is, with the championship at stake, and this just throws a whole new dynamic and dimension on proceedings.
And Fabio Quartararo on Friday said, because the chances are it's going to be dry for the rest of the weekend, I did not see the point in risking going too fast in Friday in the wet conditions. He's not put a fast lap together, really, in these wet conditions either, so that puts huge risk for him. He'll be thinking about the World Championship. There are so many riders whose eyes will be lighting up coming into this one now. Bradley Smith, FYI, was fastest in the wet here on FP1 on Friday. He starts from 19th on the grid, traditionally a good starter as well. He will be long odds in case you want to put a cheeky pound on it. Here comes Miguel Oliveira then exiting pit lane. There's no doubt that it's wet tyres to start this race. It's 1 lap less than the schedule initially, 26 laps coming up. Drama in MotoGP.
Just to remind you of those riders that are in completely uncharted waters in the water in Le Mans. Quartararo there, Mir, Oliveira, Binder, Bagnaia, Alex Marquez and Iker Lecuona. No previous rain experience in a MotoGP World Championship battle, and with so much at stake, so much on the line,
Confirmation at the bottom of your screen, folks. Race Direction have called it a wet race. Riders can come in to swap for a dry bike at any moment. Pit lane closes in 1 minute. If you're not out in that 1 minute, you've got a penalty coming your way. Can you believe it, Matt?
Unbelievable. Pit lane is now closed. Red light is on. And now this is going to be a very, very tentative sighting lap. What drama just before the start of what we were hoping for, a dry French Grand Prix. Let's go down to Michelin Motorsport manager Piero Taramasso for his thoughts now on what potentially is a flag-to-flag battle, Simon.
Yes, Piero, in these slippery conditions, I imagine fastest is to have the soft wets on, but in a long race, if it dries out, do you think anyone would go for the medium?
So I don't have all the information, but I just saw Alex Rins going out with the medium, but the majority of the riders, they went out with the soft, wet, of course. The soft, they use it Friday morning. The temperature, the condition was very close.
And it was very, great tyres, really fast.
Yes, was very nice. After 21, 22 laps, the soft was in very good shape, so he can keep the race distance.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much. So, medium for Alex Rins. They will all start on wet tyres.
Cold and wet in Le Mans. It can be a recipe for disaster. This is going to be a survival race in many respects. A real battle of attrition coming up. Andrea Dovizioso, normally so good in wet weather conditions, as is Danilo Petrucci. You can never discount Jack Miller as well. And what about Rossi too? With all of his experience, there's nobody more experienced in this kind of situation than the 41-year-old doctor coming from 10th place on the grid.
After the race in Catalonia, many thought the championship was starting to take shape in the form of Quartararo and Mir versus the rest. Are we going to see another twist here in the tail of this